Welcome, welcome. So yeah, yesterday we were able to get uh, our little update build lib script going. Probably took longer than it should, but still not over this cold, so things are slow. But we can work on panning. Um, we started with a test over here, and we realized we needed to implement a way to synthesize like a dragging kind of event. And so we went back to glop, and I think we wrote a red test. Hmm. So let's green it. This probably has to be a slice of event groups, right? Um, I should at least build. Hmm. Trying to think how I would go about doing this. Um, what is the drag? It's moved to the start. Um, mouse down. Move to the end. Mouse up. Now, what does a move to the start look like with glop? It looks like a X and Y kind of motion. Uh, so So it's like wheel x-axis. We should do like a here. We might want helpers for building things like this, but we'll deal with that later. So there's a key corresponding to the x-axis of the mouse, and there's a key corresponding to the y-axis of the mouse. And so um, is that always like a relative change? I think so. So maybe we can say something like key is wheel x-axis. The type is aggregator. Press. Okay, so we need a list of event groups. What is going on here? Now, hold on. Where? The event group has a mouse position. So, mouse position. Oh. There's a set mouse position. We probably have to set press amount. I think I have to do something different from that, actually. We're gonna have to tell it which key. For now, it's just gonna be the left button. It's Sucko 22. Okay, who called that? 61. Yeah, there would be more than one mouse down, right? Um, if ev primary event dot key. Okay. feature, implement mouse drag synthesis. Sure. All right, let's refactor to include a button ID. So if this had a gen key ID, it doesn't have to be mouse down. It can be key drag. This is just, some key ID. We'll reduce the duplication later, but right now I just want to introduce parameterization over which button gets pressed. Okay, so this can just be some key, and it's just get by key ID, the given key ID. And then it's a press, and we're going to say key down, right? So this is just some key. We're going to use the given key ID to do the lookup. We're going to key set press amount. This is key up. Yeah. So that should still test. But this needs now to tell it we have to give it a key ID for the left mouse button. It should really be key drag. And we can say is actually left mouse button key ID. Support synthesizing drags for given key instead of always the left mouse button. Okay, so we ought to be able to key drag a key ID. Now this kind of sucks in that there's a lot of copy pasta and it's not particularly readable because you got to like understand what the heck this is all about. So we might want what? We're doing a lot of this like construction of event groups. We didn't do key think, did we? Yeah, we need a key think here. Access.key think. Wherever we set press amount, it only actually updates internal state. Sorry, it expects an update to internal state that happens during think. Okay. This really is a mouse move. We can leave dispatch to focus widget false for most of these. Um, don't bother mentioning uh, field can let take. Don't bother assigning the 0 value to a field. It'll do it itself. Now, I think what I want is to synth for synth to have a few private helpers to like make these event groups, right? Um, this is really a drag gesture. Sure to key think or synthesized events, or else don't the parents like they haven't happened. We want the events to report their addresses as of last. Key think. Whoops. Huh? Oh, might as well format that. Okay. All right. So what are we worried about next? We're worried about the duplication. Yep. So I want like a press for a key ID and a point. Right. Yeah. release is the same, except this becomes a 0, and that becomes a release. Um, make event group. I guess we don't have turn area, right? Right? So this is just return s.make event group kitty at 1. This is return an event group slice of press mouse x-axis at target. Yeah. Do I want these just as constants? I think so. We'll do that later. But here, there. Return s.release. The thing is, we want to include the amount, not just... Yeah, we need to make event group, right? they'll press that for that amount. Um, it might be a release if they say 0, but that's fine. Um, start and do we need to do that? um, what's the right way to do that? I think that's probably we'll use point, not pause, because they're different. but we want to be consistent. Um, might do it this way. Yeah, we did 2 separate key thinks here, didn't we? For the same key. Man, I'm a pain in the butt. Hmm. Make brain dead event group, so can't think. I mean, make event group might just say it returns a event group that needs a think applied. Okay. We know the key returned is here. Um, right, and then 82 insertions, 94 deletions. But I think it's a lot more readable, to be honest. So
Okay, we'll push that, and then we'll go back to glop, where we are in a green step. We'll update glop. I need some coffee. I'll be right back. Let's get some lunch going.
Now, is there a better kind of thing to do? Is there a better thing to do? Is there a better way to obtain such a key ID? It's like jin.mouse r button. Any mouse r button? Something like that. We said jag gesture. There we go. So is that red? I guess we gotta import Jin. Uh, we should probably have a thing for that. I want to find the cake. Um, we have cake. There it is.
So it shouldn't look like cake. Oh my god, did it move? It did not move. Okay. Um, let's find out why. Uh, sending a drag gesture to a house viewer should pan it. Okay.
are we doing? Hmm. We need what? This drag is like fine. Um. Hmm. It's gonna have to be like the first time we see mouse down, track where that is. If we continue to see mouse down, well, I guess if we see mouse move after mouse down. Oh, Josh. Okay. Um. This should be like parameterized or whatever, but whatever. Let's just read it. If group dot is pressed, whenever there's a right mouse button down, um, house viewer state. Oh, it's just embedded.
I should say primary key. Mouse R button. Is released, not is released. hp dot zero state dot drag release. Right. If group dot as mouse position hp dot host viewer state dot update. Oh, primary event is released. Do we not have the equivalent for aggregator release? We do not. Okay. We should add that. In the meantime, we will work around the lack of API with dot primary event dot is release. It's really if group dot is primary event dot key ID contains right button ID. Chain dot mouse R button device. Sorry, my headphones are about to die. Need to plug them in. This index can be GN device index any. Hey, Night Carnage. Real person. Hi, Caffeine Storm. Hello, other fellow human.
How are you? Welcome, welcome. Not sure if you've been here before, but we're working on a game, and it's very broken. Ooh, is it broken? Um, but we're making progress, so that's good. What are you up to, Night Carnage, other than catching streams? First time? Want to observe some Golang? Well, here it is, in all its glory. It's just like any other language, can be abused or, polished, but certainly if you have questions about Golang or constructions that you don't kind of that don't make sense to you or aren't clear, let me know. I'm happy to shed some light on it. I'm no Golang guru, but I have used it for a little while. Um, most of the complicated things in this project are specific to this project, not Golang. But I would say that that's most projects. So if the primary event is some kind of right button event, uh, we'll say that that's happening. Else, we'll assert that it's a release. Um, we'll do it this way. Else if release host viewer state drag release, and then if neither of press or release are true, that's an error. Panic is kind of similar to throw in other languages. It's not quite the same, but if you think about it like that, you'll get pretty far. Got an event group that was neither a press nor a release. So if we ever see this panic, we'll know where it was that it happened, like the high level idea of what was wrong with the event group, but we'll also have the entire event group in the crash. So that should be helpful. So if it was pressed, we'll tell the state to update that it was pressed, update that it was released. Now it might be that we see press, 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 and that's fine. The host viewer state will take care of that. It'll detect when it transitions. And maybe it can deal with whether mouse position was set or not. I mean, it should be set, but we just need to maybe we don't want to even do it here. We want to just say hv host viewer state dot drag update and move this logic in there. I think I would prefer that. So there's a function on pointer to host viewer state called update drag or drag update, and it takes an event group, a GUI event group, perhaps. I guess we'll call it group. What's your background, Night Carnage? Are you a dev, or are you just kind of curious, or? So, what does this got to do? It's saying track transitions from press to release. Press. Track last known mouse position. Or referencing startup drag. In my mind, it's like until there's a press, we just don't do anything. Once we see a press, we say, oh, that's where the press started. And we listen further for mouse position changes. And it's when we see those changes in mouse position that we say, okay, we need to pan. Yeah. Okay, so it's like um, such a drag, man. All right. So it's like group is kind of drag-like. Pardon me. Sorry, I've got a bit of a cold. Um, I want like a flag. I think they've been using on as like you can see this target zoom on, target on. So if the dragging state is on, oh, you work on embedded hardware. I suppose I'm a full stack, but not really a coder. Oh, so you come at it from like the hardware side, like the electrical engineering and the computer engineering. That's cool. Very, very cool. Maybe I'll. So in the vein of TDD, let's just write the minimal amount of code that's going to make the test pass. So if dragging is on and group dot uh, primary event, well, we have it right here. Continue dragging. Done dragging. So I see dragging on is false. return. So if dragging's not on, if group dot primary event dot is press, right? Start dragging. Still not dragging. So we'll track like the start position, and then we'll look at the current position here and do like a diff DevOps and EE. Oh, nice. That's like you have a focus on DevOps, or that's just kind of like part of the process of where you work? Because I will say that DevOps is best done like by everyone in the technical team, not just by like a dedicated DevOps group. Um, so I'd be happy to hear that that's kind of the pattern that you got going on. But yeah, I've got a background in computer science and a little bit of physics, but I definitely stay away from the hardware. I always say uh, programming would be so much easier if there wasn't those dang users and all that stinking hardware. So I say it in jest, like there would be no reason to compute if there were no people. There'd be no way to compute if there was no hardware. It's just that's where the hard stuff is, and I have so little control over it. Um, so it's like this is really a reference position, not a. We don't have to track the very start. We have to track what we last saw. Um, so we'll do like a. In my head, it's a vector difference, right? Like subtract current position from reference position and adjust position by that delta. Um, I mean, we could probably just say set position instead of worrying. Uh, but these are absolute positions that we get back, not relative positions. So yeah, we need a reference, and then um, move to move by delta from reference position. Positien. Coming from EE, what editor do you use? Do you prefer Vim or like a big IDE like VS Code or something? Or I don't judge, but I do like to understand people's context. I am a Vim person, just because that's what my fingers know. Not that I can assert that it's superior or anything. Um, so
dragging is Okay, so you have this, and you have that. It's probably float 32 versus int. Okay. Why they use 32-bit floats? I don't think the project is so old that 32-bit floats make sense, but they do it. So, all right. That almost kind of sort of has a chance of working. We'll see. We'll still get a image mismatch because we're expecting cake, but we got this. All right. So I can't tell if that's to the left or not. So let's. And maybe we'd want to use more than 2 pixels. So like 256. Again, still won't be cake. It's never cake, but do you think we moved this, what, to the right and down? I don't think we did. I don't think we did. So let us look at what's happening during the test. We're going to do I guess we asked the event group, not the event. Cool. So we ought to see that in the logs. Let me just make sure that the logs are verbose enough that we will see it. I care less about what happens after the respond. I'll just trust the rendering code to actually read the position correctly. But we ought to be able to see at least how many events it thinks are relevant for dragging certain things, whatever's. All right. That might be why. We never call it. Maybe we need to say, right button ID contains the primary event's key ID. It's kind of asymmetric because these key IDs support like a globbing idea. Like you can have a, I don't care which mouse it was, so long as it's a mouse and it was the right button. I don't like that design, but it is what's there and what we're building on top of, so we will continue. Usually you want your code to get called if you want to see changes happen. Going to drag. Hey! Uh, okay, still not really the thing I would expect. So let's see. Going to drag. So 3232 to 288 minus 224, and then none more. Oh. Oh, we need to know if it's a mouse move as well. Yeah. I mean, technically it shouldn't. Well, I guess on the release, we don't look for a difference, do we? If dragging was on and we released, we just do nothing. We just turn dragging off. Um, so this is not catching the events of we've moved the mouse. It's only catching the events of the right button got pressed or released. Um, this is really a press release. And then if do we have a helper for is mouse move? We will now. Is mouse move. Um, yeah, we're gonna have to update our library to have that helper, but I'm happy to improve our library to know how to answer that question. All right. The other thing we wanted is there was no is release or is released uh, analog. I mean, I guess that's not pressed. No, it's not. Uh, this is saying, is this event group a press of this key? Very high level. Very nice. Just negating that is not saying that is this event a release of that key. Um, okay, so that's two changes we want to make. Add is released to event group symmetric to or analog. Kind of like is pressed to mirror is pressed. And we also want to, we're going to do that one first. I think it's easier. Add is mouse move. Group. Yeah. Okay. So that's going to be done in this kind of like purpose-built library called Glob. But since we're doing TDD, we're adding a feature, so we're going to go to a red step. So that means we add a test that fails. Here's a good place. Is it? No. Let's go to should it be a gin event group? I think so. Yeah. I mean, that's where the is pressed got made, right? So we have tests. Yay! Oh. So it's like it's kind of like a generalization of these tests. I don't want to just copy paste it, but I really don't want to just make it from first principles either. We'll get a test that we like, and then later on we can refactor to not repeat ourselves so much. All right. So there's some input object. There's a specific key X. Yeah. It shouldn't be nil. There's a generic key X. Yeah. And then they shouldn't be the same. Supports any device. So this isn't a press. This is a release. So this test is like, build me an abstraction that says key X on keyboard 0. Build me an abstraction that says key X on any keyboard. Synthesize some input that is a release of the specific key X, so keyboard 0's X just lifted. Make sure that when you look at the event group and ask, was there a release for some keyboard's key X? It should be true. Yeah. Now that won't build, and that is the expected failure mode for this red step. So that's a good red test. Yay. Verify that it's released. Supports any device. Any keyboard concept. All right, now that we've added a test that's failing, we go to green mode and we make it work. We make it green. So it's really this, but released. We find the event by the ID, and then if it was release, we return true. So that should green the test. That means the test should all pass still. Like all the old ones that passed before should still pass, and the new one that used to fail now passes. So we're confident that A, the test exercises the code that we've just changed in production, and that the change we made in production was enough to make, this code behave as expected. My semantic completer is stale. Didn't realize is release got defined. Cool. That's the smallest amount of code, simplest change that we can make. But I will update the comment that greens the test. We're on a green step. We're only looking for green. We're not doing all the brouhaha of not repeating ourselves and making sure names are good and any of that. This is a feature implement is released. Right. So now that we've taken a green step, we can go back and do some refactors to kind of purge any heresy. Heresy being what? There's a bit of duplication here. If we were to deduplicate it, it would look like something like I won't export it because I don't want it to change the public API. But if it is keyed, I want to look at it before I bother thinking of a good name. Aggregator press dot type. Right, it's this, but EV type is type. So then this would become EG is keyed ID aggregator press, and this would be the same but for release. Is that actually easier to read? I don't think so. So we won't make that change. Now in the test, we've got some copy paste that could be very much not abused so badly. My mind is saying these tests are the same test, but for the type, the event type, whether it's a press or a release. And so table test is what we want. And we'll just have to include in the table the like function under test to call. We can see what that looks like. Where do I want to do this? Um, yeah.
So it's not about the press or not, it's about that it's a sum key. The test case is gonna have like a wrapper. Hey, afternoon, Remorse. How are you doing? Welcome, welcome. We are testing. So test case dot flunk under test. Yeah. Okay. Now test table is a slice of structs. Call it test data, maybe. So there's one test case called the name of is pressed, and the event type is aggregator.press, and the func under test is a function taking an event group, a GUI event group, I think. No, gen event group, and a aggregator event type. Group tip. And this is going to do group dot is pressed of tip. No. How did we call it? Yeah, we didn't pass the event type. We said it's a key ID. Good. Thanks. How are you? I'm well, thanks. I'm kind of sick. What am I making? It's a turn-based strategy game. That I found one day. Oh, thanks, Bitly. I'm really happy that you got to give me that interstitial screen. But long story short, there was this old Kickstarter project, and it got almost done, and then they were like, "Sorry, we can't finish," and they threw all the source code online and said, we can't even make it build anymore. And I was like, maybe I can. But yeah, been browsing Twitch for Golang streams, trying to learn it. Was doing TourOfGo, learning, but found some of the stuff hard to grasp, so just looking how others are using it. Nice. Was there anything in particular about the TourOfGo that was uh, here's that link to that Reddit post or whatever, but from there you can get to the Kickstarter page. But um, was there anything specific in Go that was like hard to grok? This case data. Name is a string. Func under test is a func of gen event group. Whoa, whoa. Easy there. What is going on? Easy, Windows terminal. Slow your roll. takes a key ID and returns a bool. But it also needs a event type. I think the declaring variables in the variable to a pointer with star and address of. Yeah. Fair enough. Do you have any experience with C? If you know C, there's a pretty good way to understand how Go does it. If you don't know C, we can kind of work on what you got. Oh, thanks for the follow. I work in IT on help desk by day, but trying to study networking and Azure to move to infrastructure. But I've always enjoyed coding in my free time. Nice. Mainly dipped my toes into Java and Python, though I know a bit of C# from college. Nice. That's also really cool you picked up the source code to try to work on it. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I thought it was an interesting project. But certainly the it can't be done was challenge accepted. That's kind of motivating for me. Kind of hard-headed of me, but it's also motivating for me. So, but yeah, if you've got a background in Java, Python, and C#, have you ever done any low-level kind of memory manipulation? Certainly in those guys, you just kind of call new, or you make the object and you get it and you're done, and you don't think about it. And that's like the high-level garbage collected world. Then there's languages like C, where you are in charge of the memory allocation, and you got to clean up after yourself. There's no garbage collector. If you don't clean it up, it leaks and you run out eventually. And then Go is kind of in the middle, actually. They want to expose the bits you need in order to do manual memory management when you need to, because it is faster than and more predictable than the kind of Java C# world of sometimes the garbage collector turns on and you don't get to do anything for a while. Tough. But no, Go has a much more structure to it that lets you control that, but it also gives you the syntactic sugar and the rules to get most of the benefit of it's garbage collected. Don't worry about it. If that makes sense. Does that make any sense? Never done any low-level stuff. Is the pointer essentially like calling const on a variable in Python or Java? Not quite. So that variable always points back to the instance of the variable you meant. So if you had a list, you could use star and address so you know you're always going into that list. It's not the same. The best way to understand a pointer is to have an understanding of what the address space of a process is. You saw one concept that was you don't need to pass something a full list all the time with a variable, so a pointer is used to point to the address in memory without passing everything. Yeah, that's one good use of a pointer, right? If you've already got a list, why copy the list into your function, right? Just say, hey function, go look over there for your list. Go here. I'm pointing at where the list is. Go find it there. But yeah, basically, when code is running, do I have a decent drawing thing? Virtual graph paper, maybe? Ooh, this is from last time. We'll make a new sketch here. So basically, there's this concept of the process address space. Have you heard that term? It's pretty low level, but at the end of the day, you've got RAM in your computer, right? And your RAM is just like a bunch of memory locations, and they always store a number. And a pointer, right? So like maybe this location has the number 42 in it, and this one has 7,684 or 83 for that matter. And maybe this one has 20. The thing is, we also know these memory addresses, these memory locations, these numbers in memory. This is like
the 0th one. This is the 1th one. This is the 2th one, etc. Right? And so if I actually have down here a number, because again, memory just stores numbers, right? It's just RAM. If I have the number 1 here, and I think, and I interpret that one as being a pointer, that's really saying there's a memory location you need to check out, and it's this one. Right? And so you can think of it like instead of passing 42, 76, 83, 20, and on and on and on, you just say, hey, there's a list, and it starts at 1. Go find it there. So pointers are really cool because they're small, right? It's one number. So they're cheap to copy, cheap to compare. They don't necessarily have any information in them other than where you're pointing at. But most languages will have the type of pointer, right? So you know you're pointing at a list, or you know you're pointing at a rectangle, or you know you're pointing at a string, that kind of stuff. I'm looking for the eraser. Where's the eraser? I want to erase that. Maybe select. But anyways, does that make any sense about like what a pointer is and why we see them used the way they are? Maybe. What the heck? Maybe that's not the way you think about it, or like a way to understand it for you. But we can drill into that if we need to. But if you understand this concept, then using star and address of will be a lot more easy. Yeah, I understand memory locations in terms of cheats in video games. People making the cheat need to find the memory address of values to edit, like health or whatever. So a pointer is an address to a space in memory containing data. Yeah. It's a pointer is here's an address in memory, and you need other context to know what's there. But yeah, that helps a bit. Thank you. I'll definitely need to look into it a bit more. Yeah, but I guess like going back to our original thing, you were thinking about like when you would use a pointer instead of a copy, right? So, for example, let's go back to that graph. I'm gonna snooze the ads here. So, if you were writing a function and what you wanted that function to do was like increment all the numbers in a list, right? Well, you can't just pass in a copy of the list to that function and expect it to work, right? So if you had, you say you're in, Python. I probably shouldn't name it PyTest. That's a well-known library, but you know, +1. You just do like for why I don't remember Python right now. For I in range list at I is list at I +1, right? And so you could have like list foo is that. You could do +1 on list foo and print list foo. We'll do after, actually, after. PyH, what? We'd actually want to say enumerate here. So for I don't care. Yeah. Okay. So before we run the function, the list has 1, 2, 3, 4. After it, we have 2, 3, 4, 5. That's because Python passes things by what they call reference, which is pointers with the sharp edges taken off. So it's like when I call +1, I'm passing a pointer to this list. And so when you look into this list and you modify this list, you're modifying the list that list_foo knows about. But if you pass things by copy, we'll do the same code. Except first, we'll say list is a new list, which is x for x in list. Right? And then so this before and after, right? We actually modified the list, but this before and after, it's the same. Before list_foo looked like 2, 3, 4, 5, and after list_foo looked like 2, 3, 4, 5. That's because when we do this assignment here, we're actually saying, okay, go update the memory for the ith index of this list to store whatever this is. But what memory does this point at? It points at new memory because we took a copy of it, right? So we had the memory of a list, right? And then we said, okay, make a new list and run the same thing on that list. Well, of course, it's not going to change anything over here. This is different memory. It might even be easier to see as move this. No, I don't know how to move things, but imagine this was lined up with this, right? It's different memory because we made a copy. And so, of course, when you go to print this list again, because that's list_foo, you would get the old value. And so when you pass by reference, this is a workaround for Python because Python doesn't have a way to pass by value except for primitives, like ints. But it comes down to, in Golang, you pass by value, full stop. But there's nothing stopping you from passing a pointer as a value. And so if I pass 1 into our original function, it'll find a list at 1 and modify it, and it works. If I pass a copy of 1, well, that's still pointing at the same thing. So when I pass that in, it still finds the same list. It still does the same manipulations. So maybe that makes sense. Maybe it doesn't. But you're probably watching ads. But yeah, hopefully that helps. check that the generic key is what should I say? Like in the expected state is yeah, that helps. Good. But yeah, if you understand like that address space stuff and the the concept that the pointer is really just a number that points at some piece of memory, then understanding why it would be more performant to pass a pointer instead of a copy makes a lot more sense. It's pretty cheap to copy a number. Might be expensive to copy a whole list. Um, you know, you see effects of mutation on an object that was pointed at outside of the function that you passed your object into, because you're modifying that object's memory. But if you pass by value, you're modifying a different piece of memory. And so, of course, when you look at the original, it hasn't changed. So it makes me sort of think of it as static in Java. So if I had a list called like online people, and I only ever want to have one copy of that list, and one should only ever exist, I'd use a pointer for it. Uh, Not quite. Um, the when you say you only want one of it, there's kind of two components to that. There's only one variable that is the thing that has that list, and then there is only one copy of that data in memory. Those aren't necessarily the same. Um, but yeah, if you wanted just one list in your application, having that static variable makes a lot of sense, and that would be akin to like a global variable in Golang. Um, and so your entire process would understand that list is in that variable, right? Um, yeah, it points back to the address in memory, and at that memory space is the actual list value. Yeah. Um, yeah, but I would say that you don't technically need a pointer in order to have the property of there's only one place for that list. Uh, you could declare it as a regular value, and then that's fine. At least in Golang. Once you get into is it a pointer, is it a value, you gotta be particular about what language you're talking about. Check that the generic key is in the right state. Yeah. Then it's really this test that I want to also do. Okay, thanks for spending the time. I won't take up more explaining it. Appreciate you. Oh, no worries. No, I'm happy to talk about it and explain things. That's why I stream, so that I can chat with people and teach and learn and interact. So yeah, no problem. My pleasure. All right, so any key.
I'm gonna try to watch some videos on Go and get the basics, then try making something without a video. What I think draws me to it is that it's typed and it can compile to an executable, so it can be shared and people can just run it. Yeah, I think a strong type system is very, very helpful. It prevents a whole class of bugs before you could ever release it anyways. That you can just pass around a binary is, there are advantages, but there are also disadvantages. Like if I give you a binary that I built, it might not run on your machine because you might have a different architecture, or different operating system, or different version of this library or that library. But Go is actually pretty good. It stands out as pretty freestanding in terms of the environment it needs to run, and so copying around executables is actually tenable with Go, which is a nice feature of the language. I like the logical thinking of coding and would like to be able to get to a point where I can make something others would use, or find some little open source project to contribute to. I was looking into some terminal UI libraries for Go, but don't want to jump the gun. Yeah. Do you spend a lot of time in the terminal? It's Rust, but there's a cool project also developed on Twitch called Tatoi. It's like run shaders in your terminal. But have a look at that. It's a pretty cool project. It doesn't work for me right now. It's very early in alpha, but I think there's a lot of promise and a lot of neat ideas in there. Okay. Um, Maybe that'll work. Maybe it won't. Let's find out. It worked. Yay. I like this. Sorry. I like that async concurrency is encouraged. Also, I don't at the moment, but try and use it more. I'm a Windows user, but I want to try and move at some point to maybe Linux. But I play a lot of multiplayer games, so anti-cheats is a pain for Linux. It is. I am in the same boat. I'm actually running on Windows right now. Ta-da! But there's a system called Windows Subsystem for Linux. Makes it really easy to try Linux. I would actually very much encourage it, or recommend it. All you got to do is like run a couple commands in your terminal, and it's like native support from Microsoft. It's like the quickest way to get. I mean, you got to download an image or whatever, so it's going to cost some bandwidth, but it's like so simple to just get a terminal that runs Linux if you're already on Windows. I like the aesthetic of terminal UIs also, and I'm not much of a front-end dev for web, so keeping something in the terminal would be nicer. Yeah, I'm also a terminal guy. I I like that my workflow and my tools and things are much more portable. Basically, I can sit down at any Linux machine and be at home. Um, and if I'm on a Windows machine, I can open a terminal emulator and SSH into a Linux box, and I'm at home again. Uh, I'm also a fan of like the openness, like the free and Libra kind of
vibes. I'm not like a stickler about it, but I definitely try to do and use open source over proprietary things when I can. It just feels better to me. Okay, so then I ought to be able to just add a new test case. Is released. Things should be releasey. And we'll call is released. And we will add a comma at the end. Look at that. Oh, beautiful. Okay, so what do we do? We said, or sorry, what did we do? We said don't copy paste the code, just run it with parameters. And then we can eliminate a bunch of the copy of it. Yay. We'll give it another scan and just make sure that it's not saying like press or release when it shouldn't. Aha. Yeah, we're only doing press here, not the release. Okay. So this needs to be test case dot event type, and this is like func order test. That. A different key should look like it's not involved. The any key should look like it's been interacted with. Toggled. Gets toggled. An any key is included for the second one. Yeah. It kind of sucks that we're coupling this test to that, but it is what it is. Remorse says, I don't really know what I want to make with Go, which is one thing I find I want to code, but don't have any sort of solutions I want to solve, so often try to think of stuff to make. One that just popped in my head could be a program or service in Go with a config file. You could specify sites or services, and it will ping them or send a HTTP request, and if nothing comes back, send a webhook to a configured Discord channel to let you know it's down. Yeah, like a down detector that you can configure with push notifications. Yeah, that'd be pretty sweet. That would be especially useful for folks who are, well, I mean, doing the ops side of DevOps, right? Make sure the code review tool is up. Make sure the GitHub runners are responding to jobs. Make sure system X is happy and good, and there's like one spot that everybody gets the notification of something is on fire. Yeah, self-hosted down detector sort of thing. Yeah, yeah. All right, so I'm gonna say that that's a good change. refactor deduplicate some of the is pressed is released tests. Alright, let's push that so that we can use it. Wait, what were we doing? Oh, we need its mouse move as well. So let's go back to glop and write a red test. I don't think I want to do the is released as press thing. I want to do a separate one. Muzak, what happened? There might be something at the end. Stinger. We'll see. Is mouse move. So returns false for gonna head out for a bit. Thank you for sharing the knowledge. We'll keep an eye out for future streams. Hopefully I'll have learned some more Go by then. Yeah, no, thanks for stopping by. Always happy to chat. Glad I could be helpful. So yeah, is mouse move returns true for a mouse move. So gen event group where, I mean, let's not beat around the bush here. The key is x-axis, and the type is adjust, I guess. Oh, I think that's a thing. Pardon me. Let's get by parts. Gen.mouse x-axis, gen.device type mouse, gen device index 0. Key index, device type, device index. There we go. So it should return true for a mouse move. That there is no mouse move and it doesn't compile is exactly the failure mode I was expecting. So that's a good good red step. Test is mouse move would be nice. All right, let's green it. If not, g dot. If eg dot primary event dot key dot id dot type. We're already in June, we don't need to qualify it. So if there's no mouse position, it ain't a move. If it's not a mouse event, it's not a move. Now it's just, is this an adjust or not? So return eg dot primary event dot type is aggregator adjust. We didn't set mouse position on it. Oh, we don't have a don't care. Fine. 1342. Look at that. That's a green test. We'll just do one of those. Feature mouse move. Right. I think we should also test for. I'm not sure if it's going to do what I expect it to do, but returns false for press. I've never seen this before in Go. It's like yeah, make a copy and call it the same thing in this local scope. Interesting. Returns false for release. Test add coverage for press release means not mouse move. Okay, we'll go back here. We'll use the new version of our wonderful library. And we'll say yeah. I think we're on a green step, right? Yeah. State. Oh, we're also done this. Maybe this isn't drag update so much as drag toggle. And then we'll use a completely different function for move updates. Right, so this is only going to be click or not. This is the case where we're not dragging right now, but we do see a release. So it's like somebody clicked before they started up the house viewer. Or like right clicked outside of the house viewer, moved their mouse to the house viewer, and then released. And I don't think we want to drag in that's case anyways. Um, yeah. Drag update. So if st.dragging on, well, if it's not on, return. We're not going to do anything. So then st.fx plus equals delta x stfy delta y. This is not the event that we need to be updating the reference position. Um, mhm. uh, okay, so it doesn't look right. There is no going to mouse move. What? Okay, it's odd. Need a quick break. I'll be right back.
Hey, Plusser. Uh, maybe you're still here or not, but I think I'm done for today, actually. Hope you're doing well if you're here, but